I'll tell you what I do want to talk about very quickly is table presents. This was brilliant.
Well,
now, table presents.
Just quickly before you get to that, I just want to finish dinner, and then is because we'd have our dinner and we'd know we'd have table presents. They'd all be wrapped on the table. So as we'd be finishing our dinner, we'd be sitting there like trying to pull a corner off or something. But anyway, we'd finished our dinner, and the amount of food that went to waste. I mean, we could have ate something else other than egg and chips for a month. And then we'd be given the driest turkey. I mean, wallpaper had more moisture in it, I reckon. They'd been on a wall for about 6 months.
Do you know, I still don't eat turkey now because of it. I
can't, because we'd have a week. Now, I'm thinking, there's 8 people in this house. There is 8 humans in this house. Sometimes a dog, if we're allowed to keep it more than 2 weeks. You're not looking after it. No, you're not looking after it. And so what would happen is we'd end up having to eat it for a week. And like
the turkey, that is not the dog.
This isn't refrigerated. This isn't kept in a certain cooler or no, it had a tea towel flung over it, which chucked on the side. Carcass, everything. Like, it was still attached to the carcass.
Yeah.
And I'll go and pull a bit of turkey off if you're hungry. I don't want to pull a turkey off. In any sense of the word. And so then what happened is then we'd got before we got dessert, which I'll just quickly cover, which was generally the worst tasting Christmas pudding ever because she needed it to set on fire. So
but literally no one liked it. Literally no one liked it, but we had to have it because it was Christmas.
I can tell you, as a 35-year-old man, I like brandy now. As a 9-year-old child, I didn't like brandy.
Yeah, strange that.
And she put pretty much a whole bottle, then realising brandy wasn't strong enough to set on fire, the treat crap she was getting, couldn't set on fire, so she poured vodka on it. And vodka doesn't set on fire either, so God only knows what went on after that. So eventually she'd get this thing lit. We've got this bonfire coming through. We're not sure whether to call the fire brigade or sing happy birthday or something. That simply sat in the middle of the table until it went out because it weren't safe to blow on. So we'd have to wait for that thing to finally fizzle out. And like the smell of like dead hair and hairspray and everything going off. Who's hungry? And then she'd give us this thing called, I don't know if they still sell it anymore, because I used to get it mixed up when I was a kid. I used to call it salmonella, but it's called semolina.
Yeah.
And I'm still not sure what it is to this day. I think
isn't it the milky bit out of rice pudding, or am I making that up?
No, that's what I thought it was, plus flour or something, because it was horrible. It was like the worst taste. It was like a 9-year-old tried to make custard.
Yeah.
And it just didn't work out well for him. You know, and it was grim, and she'd just cake this burnt mess into it, and you will eat it. Know what I want. It's horrible. Christmas is cancelled. And so we'd get Christmas cancelled, and so then she'd turn around and she'd go, right, we'll open up your fucking presents then.
Let me just explain table presents though, because not everybody does table presents. I found that out recently that this is something that not everybody does. Now, table presents is or was meant to be in our house a small gift that would fit on the table. Scott, just saying, not mentioning names. And it would ideally be something like from the pound shop or whatever, like a diary or a calendar for the next year, or something handy, pack of pens,
or
anything like that.
Play with while you're waiting for for everyone else to finish their dinner or something.
Anything like that. But one particular year, and I think you know what's coming, is Scott would come in. This is older brother, by the way. Can't mention those, so that has to be bleeped out. Would come in with his right arm, fist up to his shoulder. Everything was sorted.
He walked around like he'd been in the road accident I was in.
Yeah, everything was sorted. Everything was sorted. And he picked up, I don't know how he picked it up with one arm, but he managed. Picked up this massive, great big box, and it didn't even fit on the table, and just said sorted, and walked off. Now, when she opened it up, it was one of them bloody great big blender things, weren't it? From them things that you buy and then you never use. They just go in the cupboard, don't they?
Oh yeah.
He spent about 40, 50 quid on this thing. it should have been something for maybe £1 or £2 at a maximum, just something cheap and crap, really. And that ended up being ridiculously massive, but I could just see it sorted and walked off.
Like the table's going all cockeyed because, you know.
Yeah, because the other thing was as well, with the table presents as well, is no one was meant to know who was from who.
Yeah,
So it's sort of like a Secret Santa type thing. Yeah. So obviously Mum would have bought them all, but like they were from each one of us or whatever.
So
you had to make
like
a
you
point.
Really didn't like the other person at times.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
But he would
I'll tell you what,
absolutely...
I'll swap you them bath bombs for that diary.
Yeah.
He didn't remember. He didn't label anything.
No, it was just slapped round the table, wasn't it? But yeah, there had to be a point of how much had been spent on her compared with everybody else. Combined.
Yeah, it had to be. Otherwise, it was, well, you guys don't love me, do you? We didn't know what about emotional blackmail was back then. So to us, it was just normal. And
I have something else.
Yeah.
Christmas crackers.
Oh.
Now,
everyone has to wear a hat.
we did have Christmas crackers, and everyone did have to wear a hat. However, I don't think to this day.
One of them didn't
to this
fit
day, yeah, one of them didn't fit. I wonder who that was.
He must have ripped her shreds coming out. Jesus Christ.
To this day, I still haven't been able.
It sounds like you're blowing into the top of a can when she goes past in the wind.
Anyway, to this day I still can't pull a cracker properly, because what would happen was, if you ever pulled it with her, she would hold the middle of the cracker.
And then
not the end bit.
Away as well.
Yeah. Because if you dare to win it, you'd probably get a punch in the face.
Yeah, because I'm not having to go at anyone that's big, but she definitely beat anorexia. She got that in a chokehold.
Down.
This was like watching Ronda Rousey go nuts in UFC. Yeah. This was like there was no challenge at all.
but who grabs a cracker in the middle of it? Who does that?
And then read the joke.
Someone who wants to win, innit? Let's be fair.
That's not what we got when we were kids in any way, shape, or form. And I'm never going to win any award.
No, I think one of the things was go for the eyes.
So what ended up at Christmas, by the end of Christmas, bearing in mind, it started at 6 o'clock in the morning because she was up before all of us trying to convince us. Now, bearing in mind, I was already sceptical about, like, magic, religion and everything by the time I got hit by a truck. I didn't see any big white light or anything like that. And I went through the pain of recovery, which generally turns a lot of people away from that kind of thing. And plus the fact that you've got the Salvation Army playing trumpets in your hospital room because it's nearly Christmas and they want to make you feel Christmassy even though you can barely even smile because your whole head's in a bandage. I weren't feeling that festive, but what would happen is she would then still try and pour the snow on the Christmas floor, walk through boots in it, and then scream at us because we were treading it in. That was no, it weren't. It was for you. And so she could do the worst. And I mean, I watched Hollyoaks once, and they would win Academy Awards compared to this, pretending that Santa was real. And sorry for anyone that still believes in Santa that might listen to this, but yeah, he's not. Sorry. But basically what she'd do is walk all this stuff in, like snow and everything that she normally have over the windowsill, but she'd just chuck a load at the floor and then get me older brother to walk through with wet boots. That's the best way to do it, actually, believe it or not, is wet shoes is the best way to pick it back up. So you can still see the tread marks. Anyway, so we would have to hoover that. Now, bearing in mind, the hoover was heavier than me, so that just weren't working. And so then it would be a whole thing from like 6 in the morning. She'd wake us all up.
Yeah.
And because bearing in mind she'd been setting fire to her turkey all night and she had to keep checking on it. So what would happen is by the time 6, 7 o'clock in the evening came, dinner's done, we're all trying to make do out of what we've got. And we're all having to tidy it away. Now, bearing in mind there's 8 people in a 3-bedroom house.
Yeah, and it wasn't Christmas lunch either, like what normal people do.
No.
It was you weren't allowed to eat anything all day because you were saving yourself for this lunch,
which
that
as we
would
now
turn
know,
up at 7 or 8 o'clock at night.
Which we now know is you don't fast before you eat a big meal. It's stupid. You should eat little bits to keep your stomach working.
And still have stomach problems to this day.
Yeah, and we'll get to stomach problems or bodily function.
That's
so
another
then
one.
what would happen is there would be a bit of rivalry, and then what would happen is well, if you don't like what you got, you can swap between years. Which meant when you started off with crap, it got worse because I weren't one of the biggest. I mean, I do all right now. I mean, I don't generally get that many arguments now because I'm quite tall and stuff like that now. But, like, back then, I was one of the smallest. Plus the fact, again, and I hate to keep driving this one home, is I was still recovering. So what would happen is I'd have an older sister that was literally, and you can tell me if I'm lying, is she was about at least twice the size of me. So she would come in, bounding in, going, oh, I want that. And you're like, well, tough. It's mine. What are you going to give me for it? And try and trade. This is about an hour before Monopoly started. Yeah, so we were already well aware of how to trade and everything, 'cause of Monopoly and crap like that. So what would happen is you'd end up, when you started off with crap, it got worse. And then you end up with, like, cat. Just absolute worthless crap. Two things that didn't even go together in the first place, and now you've got one thing that don't go with anything, and everything else was being claimed because someone remembers a secret conversation that happened. Or some crap, as Eric used to, bear in mind this is a long time ago, like 25 years ago, sorry. So anyway, so after that was all sorted, we'd then start playing board games. Because we had to. Because this is before we had like Christmas, like, because Back to the Future was generally on the telly. There was only 4 channels. We did have Sky when she paid the bill. We didn't do without.
You mean when you paid the bill?
Well, yeah, when we'd worked on our paper rounds and paid the bill for her. But we didn't do without with things like that because, bearing in mind, our mum did have stuff in our house, and we were quite lucky to have certain things like Sky and stuff when it was paid. And we were quite lucky to have that because a lot of people didn't have it because they knew they couldn't afford it. Our mum didn't live like that. She couldn't afford something. Other luxuries were taken away, like decent meals. And so, not saying that we always ate crap, but generally when something was being saved for, like we said earlier. A lot of this I'm probably going to cut, to be fair. But the thing is what we ended up doing was playing board games, and then I don't know if you remember this, is our older brother always had to be the banker.
Yep.
Because he would cheat. Now, I have nothing against anyone with learning difficulties in any way, shape or form. But as far as I'm concerned, I've always been quite bright and quite aware. Not like saying academically clever, because, but quite aware of how things work, because we've just spent about half an hour or so explaining what our parents were like, or parent was like. And so I've always been quite aware. So when you've got a dyslexic older brother that can't read or write, trying to con people by getting us to read the cards to him, he couldn't count properly either. Oh, no, he could, sorry, it was money. Yeah, of course he could count properly. But he was getting us to read the cards to him, and then he would decide how much that was worth.
Yeah.
And then, so what we'd do is then, there was only one person in the house he didn't argue with, and that was our older sister. And obviously I can't mention that name, but it was his older sister, and he didn't argue with her because she just... Yeah.
Rhymes with daily and starts with H.
Yeah. But we're not mentioning last names anyway, so unless anyone has a problem with it, I'm not going to cut them for now. But if there is a problem or whatever, I can just re-edit the thing anyway.
Yeah.
It's going to be too much, because when you've got 7 brothers and sisters to deal with, it's hard not to mention them by name. If there was like 3 of us, it would be easier. Older, younger, done. But when I'm the 3rd youngest, you're the 2nd youngest, it's not easy.
That's just what we know of as well.
Yeah. Well, we'll get to that.
That'll be another one.
Yeah. But the thing is so to round this one off is themed holiday episode, whatever you want to call it, is so then Christmas night would happen, which would be generally Mum would be sitting there watching Ghost or Dirty Dancing, something with Patrick Swayze in it.
Yeah, you'd have to take your 17 diaries upstairs.
yeah.
I'd be really grateful for every one of them.
Yeah. I would take all my second-hand crap and give it back to my older brother and go, there you go, because you're going to claim it next week anyway. And then I'd have to come up with a way of still being grateful. So then we'd go. We'd come back downstairs because we weren't allowed to go to bed yet because it was Christmas. And bear in mind, this has now been a 14-hour day for children.
And we've been fasting for most of it.
Yeah. So then what would happen is we're now hungry again because the little bit of chemical feast that we got that was all just boiled because I didn't know you could boil a turkey that big, but apparently you can. So after we've got no nutritional value, I think it has to be called Merry Christmas, no nutritional value. You know, like you'd get Christmas stuff, like it would be like boxes of the mint matchsticks. I don't know if they still make them or not.
Yeah, they do.
And because it's hard to find them as well, especially when it's not Christmas. You get the after eights and everything. But the thing is much like pound shops nowadays, where we were living, I can't say exactly where it was because of, you know, being on an island and everything, in Essex, is, don't name the place though, we can get ourselves in trouble, is, you felt like you're on an island, what would happen is the shops that you get would be like pretty much now. Do you know when you walk in and you go, you have to check the dates just to make sure that, you know, you're not actually going to poison your kids because it's cheap. It would be stuff like that. So after eights would be like, I don't know, after nines or some crap, you know, and half of them would be missing. So anyway, what happened is our parent, mum, whatever you want to call her, is she would sit surrounded, and she always had like there was things I would identify with my childhood, like a barrel of biscuits. Like a bucket that would normally use for like knitting. Most parents you see like a knitting thing where it's got the big handle. She used to have it full of
storage
biscuits.
tub.
Yeah, with a handle on it and stuff like, because you know, God knows it's too hard to lean over. You can just grab the handle. So what would happen is she would then sit there eating and eating and eating, and then go, I haven't eaten anything all day, so I'm allowed to treat myself. And we're like, we were sat at the table here. We were there. Obviously, we didn't say that. You know, we're just like, no. What are you looking at? And then she'll go, well, sling it across the floor. Well, if you want it, eat it. Oh, I don't want it now. Why not? Well, because it's on the floor. I cleaned this floor.
You didn't know, did you?
No, you didn't, because I had to hoover with a hoover that was bigger than me.
Let's just point out as well, there was always like 3 or 4 sofas, but she was the only person allowed to sit on them.
Yeah, we had to sit on the floor.
Yeah.
And sometimes, with the cheese sticks that she used to call feet, one of them would end up on your shoulder. I think this is when Weight Watchers started bringing out their first special, like, well, not the first, but when she first got into it, they'd have like her own chocolate bars and everything like that. We're like, no, one of them as a snack is fine because it's better for you than a chocolate bar. 12 on the other hand. Is even then I knew maths, you know.
Defeating and objects.
It was like, I've lost a lot of weight. Yeah, look around, you'll find it. But she had this issue where it would be like she'd sit and eat and scoff pop and sweets and everything like that. Getting her sweat on for Patrick Swayze on the telly, you know, maybe we might be able to distract her, you know. She's getting all flustered. Oh, I'll have him. He's your new dad.
Let's just point out here, this was not an Essex accent or a London accent. Mm-hmm. This was...
Manchester.
Yeah.
Oh, Salford, sorry, not Manchester. We don't need to tar them with that brush.
Full-on Vera Duckworth.
Yeah. It was.
100%.
Yeah.
I'd have him. I'd have him. I bet you wish you were dead.
See, I can't do the Manchester accent. I try to avoid it all as possible because, you know...
I'd ruin him.
That was a bombs at it. and so, yeah. So
things I'd do to him.
And then, like, bear in mind,
Mum, I don't want to know about you.
Yeah, we're children. That's grim. Like,
what do you want to do, Mummy?
I don't know how this works. I still don't know.
Why do you say you like him, but you say you're going to do bad things?
I know, brother and sister shouldn't really talk about this. I mean, I've done some things as I've got older. I'm going to leave that sentence right there, yeah? But I still don't know what she wanted to do to him.
No. And I bet, I mean, God rest his soul now and all that.
Thank God.
But I bet he's glad he never met her.
Oh. Glad.
I tell you what, do you ever watch Bo Selector?
Yeah.
Pat.
When he dressed up as Mel B.
Yeah, my minge pong. That was the accent. That was the accent, wasn't it? Things I do with that.
Yeah.
getting hot in here? Is it getting hot in here?
He's getting me sweat on. She'd do it in a deep voice as well, so it got like creepy. She's sitting there, basically heaving on the sofa going. It was like watching a fucking mastiff with worms. And so she'd sit there and like, she'd be like, oh, this is not appropriate. Can we watch Freddy again?
I'm not sure if we put the point across or not. She really liked Patrick Swayze.
No, she hated him. Couldn't stand him. And then, like, so then it would be bedtime. And we're like, you just said if we're quiet for 10 minutes, we can have some... Oh, you don't get enough. Throw everything. Everything got launched at cushions. She'd make sure her knockoff videos of... like, she loved Patrick Swayze that much, she decided to buy copies of his films. And piracy was a thing in our house.
Oh, yeah, in them bookcase covers.
I don't remember like a single official video growing up.
No.
Of course not.
No.
Take swapping back in the day. So the last note would be bedtime. I don't know if you remember much about bedtime at Christmas, apart from thank God it's over.
No, that's about it really.
Because the thing is we're only about halfway through this, and we've spoke for about an hour and a half about Christmas Day.
Yeah.
We haven't gone anywhere to clear up or anything like that. But yeah, so going to bed on Christmas night, she would then, and it was somewhat sweet but contrived, I believe, personally. I'm talking all posh now because I need the burp. She would turn around and come into every one of our rooms and go, well, I hope you've had a good day, and I'll see you in the morning.
Can't wait till next year.
I'm like, Mum, I'm 9, but you've aged me like I feel like I'm 40. My nerves are shot. I just need to sleep.
And I don't want to see Patrick Swayze for another year.
I don't know what you want to do to him, but I will find out. I'll let him know.
It sounds painful, Mum.
I've got a feeling he might not like it as much as you do. That was it. Yeah. The first time I ever heard this phrase, from Christmas with Patrick Swayze. Yeah, that's what we've got to call this episode, Christmas with Patrick Swayze. Is what it would be, and I never heard this phrase. I've never heard it said from anyone else, only from her. And as soon as I say this, you're going to either laugh or go, what? Ready? I'll trip him up and be on the floor before him.
We're all same length laying down.
I've seen you try and get off the sofa. It looks like an Olympic event. You ain't getting on the floor before anyone.
The slow-mo, you mean?
No. The Rock. The one arm up, where everything's crunching and creaking. Rocking her ass backwards and forwards to get enough momentum to finally move forward. Then she'd go down on her one knee. This is before she had them reversed. And she would then, she'd be on her hands and knees on the floor. I was like, was that what you want to do to Patrick Swayze?
Patrick Swayze. I'll tell you what we'll do is if we draw this to a close now, I think an idea might be to perhaps throw a few episode names out there, and then people can perhaps tell us what they want us to talk about next.
Yep. Your one from earlier, so I'm going to steal your thunder. I've had cheese.
Yeah, I've had cheese. I've had cheese. We can have accents, birthdays, run me a bath. That's got to get some attention.
Yep.
That deserves a whole episode.
Yep.
Pork pies.
Oh, psychic pie pastry.
Yeah, that's a small one, but it's a good one.
Yeah.
We'll leave it at that for now, and they can pick from that.
Yeah. I do think though that there is we forgot the whole personal grooming. That's got to be that's a
personal favourite. That
we can talk about that for about 6 hours straight.
Yeah, food. I mean, obviously we know egg and chips is going to come up a lot, but there are some special things that you don't know about yet.
We won't have to scrape the bottom of the barrel for that one.
Yeah.